Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are doing chapter 47 and it's about woman's bad conduct toward her husband. Woman's bad conduct towards her husband. I think I need to be A here. Woman's bad conduct toward her husband. Allah Most High says, and the Sheikh quotes Surah Nisa, Surah Nisa 4, so Surah 4, Ayah 34, translation. Admonish those women whose bad conduct you fear, and leave them alone in their beds, and even beat them. If they obey, do not seek a way against them. Allah is sublime and great. So I remember talking about this in the marriage class. It's talking about nushuz, right? So if the husband fears nushuz from the wife, then he has a whole bunch of things that he has to do. Okay, so Al-Wahidi said bad conduct here means disobedience to the husband due to contempt for him, meaning the wife disobeys the husband because she doesn't respect him, she doesn't, she's contempt. It's like you don't find no value in your husband. You don't find you just look down upon your husband, and because of that you disobey him. So that is what Al-Wahidi says is bad conduct. Atta said it means that she perfumes herself for her husband, but then she denies herself to him and changes whatever she used to do for him voluntarily. Admonish them means advise them by Allah's book and what He has commanded them in it. Leave them alone in their beds. It means here, according to Ibn Abbas, the husband turning his back to his wife and not speaking to her. Shabi and Mujahid said that it means not to sleep with her in the same bed. Okay? Beat them means beating the wife lightly without causing pain or hurt. Allah Most High reminds the husband that if his wife returns to him in obedience, he should not continue to be angry with her, inventing new excuses. So at this point, Allah at the end, He reminds the husband that, okay, if your wife says, okay, she's, she regrets, she's going to obey now and she's changing her ways, and the husband should not look for any other excuse to try to harm her or be angry with her. He should forgive because Allah is asking him to do that. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam as saying, if a man asks his wife to come to his bed and she refuses, the angels will curse her until the morning. This hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. In another version, he said, by him in whose hand is my soul, if a woman who has been called to her husband's bed refuses, the Lord who is in heaven will be displeased with her until her husband is pleased with her. This is again in Bukhari and Muslim. So very authenticated hadith. SubhanAllah. Jabir bin Abdullah reported Allah's Messenger ﷺ as saying, there are three types of persons whose prayers are not accepted and whose good deeds are not raised up to heaven. A runaway slave until he returns to his masters and put his hand in theirs, a woman whose husband is angry with her until he becomes pleased with her, and a drunk until he becomes sober. This is in Ibn Hibban and Bayhaqi. Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, the woman will be firstly asked on the day of resurrection about her prayer and her husband. Abu Sheikh. It is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and the last day to fast, except in Ramadan, except the fasting of Ramadan, while her husband is present, except by his permission, or to allow someone in the house without his permission. So she should not let anybody in the house without first letting the husband know. And she should also not fast any optional fast without seeking his permission. And another hadith, if I were to order anybody to prostrate in front of another, I would order the woman to prostrate before her husband. This is in Tirmidhi. The aunt of Hussein bin Muhsin mentioned her husband to the Prophet ﷺ, and he cautioned her, see what your attitude toward him is, for he is your garden and your fire. Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anhu reported Allah's Messenger ﷺ as saying, Allah does not look at a woman who is not grateful to her husband, as long as she is not independent of him. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reported Allah's Messenger ﷺ as saying, when the woman goes out of her husband's house without his permission, the angels curse her until she returns or repents. This is in Tabarani. Salama radiallahu anha reported Allah's Messenger ﷺ as saying, any woman who dies while her husband is pleased with her will enter Jannah. This is Tirmidhi. The Shaykh says it is obvious then that it is incumbent upon a woman to seek her husband's pleasure and avoid making him angry, and not to refuse herself from him when he wants her. As the Prophet ﷺ said, when a man calls his wife to his bed, she should come to him even if she is baking bread at the oven. And she should drop everything she's doing to respond to her husband. Scholars say a woman should respond to her husband's demand except when she is menstruating or during the period of birth bleeding, as it is prohibited, it is haram, to have sexual intercourse at such times. And the husband should not call his wife to sexual intercourse at such periods. He has to wait until she takes a shower, according to the saying of Allah Most High, keep away from women during menstruation. Do not approach them until they are clean. The Prophet ﷺ said, this is from Baqarah ayah 222. The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who has intercourse with a woman who is menstruating or in her anus, or who goes to a soothsayer, has defected what has been revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This hadith is in Tirmidhi. In another tradition, the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who has intercourse with a woman while she is menstruating or in her anus is cursed. However, the afterbirth bleeding is similar to the menstrual flow, but it lasts 40 days, and the same prohibition applies during the afterbirth bleeding. Hence, it is not permissible for a woman to obey her husband if he wants sexual intercourse during the period of menstrual or afterbirth bleeding. Apart from that, she must respond to his call. A woman should also secure her husband's permission in spending money. She would rather give preference to his rights over hers, and the rights of his relatives over hers. She should be always ready to please him, and never brag to him about her beauty or show contempt for his ugliness if he is ugly. That's funny. So if the husband is ugly, she should not remind him, oh, you're not even good looking or something like that. I'm just thinking of, some wives who say to their husband, good for nothing and stuff like that. You see that in some African plays. Yeah, let's say this. It's really not something for us to do. Al-Asma'i said, I came to a nomad's house and saw that a beautiful woman married an ugly man. I asked her, how can you accept to be with such a man? She replied, listen, you. Perhaps he has done something good for his creator, and his creator made me his reward. Or I may have done something bad, and he made him my punishment. SubhanAllah. You see how wise her response was? So she was married to an ugly man, and so somebody said, how can you stay with this ugly man? And so she said, wait, maybe he did something good, and Allah decided that I'm his reward. Or maybe I did something bad, and Allah decided that he is my punishment. Aisha radiallahu anha said, O women, if only you know the rights of your husbands upon you, the one of you would start wiping the dirt of her husband's feet with her cheeks. Now this is our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. Subhanallah. Anas radiallahu anhu reported Allah's messenger as saying, your garden women are the affectionate type. The one who, whether she hurts her husband or is hurt by him, comes to him and taking his hand in hers says to him, I cannot sleep until you are pleased with me. So these are the women of Jannah. That's what they do. So they are the affectionate type, and if their husband is hurt, they come to them and they put their his hand in hers and says to him, I cannot sleep until you are pleased with me. A wife should show modesty toward her husband, look down before him, obey his orders, keep silent when he is talking, stand up when he comes into the house, keep herself away apart from whatever displeases him, bid him goodbye when he goes out of the house, obey him when he calls her to come to his bed, not to betray him with regard to her person, his property if he's absent, have a fragrant body smell, be more particular about brushing her teeth with the toothstick and musk and perfume, keep herself in good appearance when he is present, abandon backbiting, be generous towards his parents and relatives, and be pleased with the little of food or clothing he provides. And again, sisters, we can only do that if we see marriage as ibadah. And I have a class on that I think if you've never taken it, you should definitely take it, because it just goes over like what are our duties, our obligations, and basically seeing it beyond you and the husband. You really want to see this as you and Allah in regards to your husband, because it is between you and Allah. Whatever you're going to do in this marriage, Allah is going to ask you about it. It is between you and Allah at the end of the day, right? The merits, the Sheikh said, the merits of the obedient wife and the severe torment of the disobedient one. SubhanAllah, I was just reading ayah about this today. A God-fearing woman strives to obey Allah and to obey her husband, and she seeks to please him because he is her garden and fire, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Any woman who dies while her husband is pleased with her will enter the garden. In another tradition, he said, when a woman observes the 5 daily prayers, fasts during Ramadan, obeys her husband, she may enter the garden by any gate she wishes. He also said, the birds in the air, the fishes in the sea, the angels in heaven, the sun and the moon ask forgiveness for the obedient wife as long as her husband is happy with her. And I'm hearing birds right now. Oh, may Allah make it that they're asking forgiveness for me. But any woman who disobeys her husband is subject to the curse of Allah, his angels, and all mankind. Any woman who frowns in her husband's face is subject to the anger of Allah until she makes him laugh and be pleased with her. Any woman who leaves her house without her husband's permission is cursed by the angels until she returns. So this is the Sheikh's comment. He says, the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, 4 types of women will enter Jannah, and 4 types of women will be in the fire. So let's pay attention. 4 types of women will enter Jannah, and 4 types will be in the fire. Those who will enter Jannah are, number 1, a chaste woman who is obedient to Allah and her husband. May Allah make us among them. Number 2, a fertile, patient woman who gives birth to many children and who is content in an easy fashion of living with her husband. May Allah make us among them. Number 3, a modest woman who guards, in the absence of her husband, her person and his property, and keeps her tongue from nagging him when he is at home. May Allah make us among them. Number 4, a woman whose husband died, leaving her with little children. She busied herself in bringing up her children, and she did not remarry for fear she might neglect her children's welfare. So these are the 4. And then the 4 that will enter the fire. Number 1, a woman who is a foul-mouthed, and nagging wife to her husband, and who does not guard her chastity when her husband is absent, while when he is at home, she hurts him with her tongue. May Allah save us from that. Number 2, a woman who overloads her husband with demands that he cannot afford. May Allah save us from that. Number 3, a woman who does conceal the parts of her body required to be covered from men and goes out of the house. I think it's who does not. A woman who does not conceal the parts of her body required to be covered from men and who goes out of the house in full makeup. Allah save us. Number 4, a woman who is only concerned in eating, drinking, and sleeping, and she has no inclination toward prayer or obeying Allah and His Messenger or obeying her husband. Subhanallah. That's number 4. May Allah save us from that as well. The Prophet ﷺ said, I was shown the fire, and I found that the majority of its inhabitants were women. This hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. That is due to their reluctance to obey Allah and His Messenger and their husbands, and much making up. We mean by making up dressing in fancy clothes, beautifying their faces, and walking seductively to attract men. The best way for a woman to gain Allah's great estimate is to be at home. It came in hadith that the woman, subhanallah, that a woman is like a genital and should be imprisoned inside houses. Ali ibn Abu Talib asked his wife Fatima, the Prophet's daughter, "O Fatima, what is good for a woman?" She replied that she does not see men, nor do they see her. And Ali used to say to his companions, "Do you not have any shame, any jealousy? The one of you who allows his wife to go out among men, exchanging looks." So he used to say that to some of the Sahabas when some of them had their wife to go out among men, exchanging looks. Okay. Aisha radiallahu anha and Hafsa radiallahu anha were sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Ibn Makhtum, who knows Ibn Makhtum? Somebody comment, who is Ibn Makhtum? Ibn Makhtum. No one? Okay, I'm gonna give you a hint. Abasa wa tawalla. Who is Ibn Makhtum?
Is the blind man?
Yes, the blind man. The blind man. So they were sitting when Ibn Makhtum came, and he was a blind man. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Veil yourselves from him." So he asked Aisha and Hafsa to cover themselves, even though Ibn Makhtum was a blind man. They said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, is he not blind? He cannot see us and does not recognize us." The Prophet ﷺ said, "But are you too blind and unable to see him?" This hadith is Abu Dawood and Tirmidhi. As it is an obligation upon men not to look at women, it is also an obligation upon women not to look at men. If a woman has to go out of home for necessities, to visit her parents and relatives, or for having a bath and so on, she should not make up to show her attractions. She should rather wear a loose outer garment over her clothes, walk normally, and keep her eyes from wandering this way and that. It was narrated that a relative of a dead woman who used to go out fully made up and show her attractions saw her in a dream. She was brought before Allah Most High in transparent garments. The wind blew and exposed her body. Allah Most High turned away from that sight and said, "Take her to the fire." She was in her lifetime one of those who used to make up. SubhanAllah. Ali ibn Abu Talib radiallahu anhu told that he and his wife Fatima came to the Prophet ﷺ for a visit and found him weeping bitterly. Ali said to him, "May my father and mother be ransomed for you, O Messenger of Allah. What makes you weep?" He replied, "O Ali, during my night journey to the heavens, I saw a number of my ummah being punished in various ways. and I am weeping at the severity of their torment. I saw a woman hanging by her hair and her brain boiling. Another woman was hanging by her tongue, and hot liquid was being poured down her throat. Another woman's feet clung to her breast, subhanallah, and her hands to her forehead. Another one was hanging by her breast. Another woman whose head was that of a pig and whose body was that of a donkey, being tormented in 1,000 different ways. And another woman was in the form of a dog, and fire was going into her mouth and coming out of her anus, while the angels were hitting her with hammers of fire. May Allah save us. Fatima stood up and said, "Oh, my dear father, what were the deeds of these women for which they suffered such punishment?" He replied, "Oh, my dear daughter, as for the one who was hanging by her hair, she did not cover her hair in front of men. The one who was hanging by her tongue used to annoy her husband. The one hanging by her breast used to defile her husband's bed," meaning she would do zina. "The one whose feet were tied to her breast and her hands to her forehead did not wash herself after sexual intercourse or finishing menstruation," meaning she didn't do ghusl, "and she made fun of prayer. And the one with a pig's head and a donkey's body used to carry around slanderous tales. And the one in the form of a dog used to be envious and to recount her favors to others." SubhanAllah. Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu as saying, "If a woman does harm to her husband in this world, his wife among the Hur'in, the black-eyed of paradise, will say, 'Do not annoy him. May Allah destroy you. Woe to the woman who disobeys her husband.'" So now the next chapter is still in the 47 major sin, but this is man's responsibility towards his wife. The Sheikh says, just as the woman is commanded to obey her husband and to seek his pleasure, the man is also commanded to be gentle and kind to his wife. He must show forbearance and patience toward her in case she is abusive or ill-tempered. It is his duty to feed and clothe her and to provide for her needs well. According to Allah's demand, treat them politely. In Surah Nisa, Ayah 19. And according to the Prophet's advice, treat women gently, for you indeed have some rights over them, and they have some rights over you. Their right on you is to provide for their food and clothing generously, while your right on them is not to let anyone whom you dislike to tread on the floor of your houses. This hadith is in Ibn Majah and Tirmidhi. He said, "The best among you is the one who is best to his wife." In another version, it is, "The best among you is the one who is most kind to his wife." The Prophet ﷺ was very kind and gentle with women. The Prophet ﷺ also said, "If any man shows patience towards his wife's bad temper, Allah will give him a reward similar to the reward of Ayub for his patience. And if any woman shows patience with her husband's bad temper, Allah will give her a reward similar to the reward of Asiya, the daughter of Muzahim and the wife of Fir'aun." It is reported that a man came to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu to complain about his wife's ill temper. While he was waiting for Umar, kind of funny. While he was waiting for Umar to come out of his house, he heard Umar's wife scolding him, and Umar calmly listening to her, not answering her back. The man turned around and said away, muttering to himself, "If that is the case of Umar, the leader of the believers, who is famous for his fierceness and toughness, then what is my own case?" So he went to Umar to complain about his wife. But when he got there waiting for Umar, he heard Umar's wife, talking to Umar, and Umar was just calm, quiet. So the man turned around and said, if this is how Umar, the leader of the believers, and how, everybody knows how fierce Umar was, right? If that's the case in his house, then what about me, right? That's what he said. At that moment, Umar came out of his house and he saw the man walking away. He called him and said, What is it you want of me, man?" The man replied, "O leader of the believers, I came to complain about my wife's bad temper and how she slays me. Then I heard your wife doing the same to you, so I turned over." So I turned away, muttering to myself, if that is the situation of the leader of the believers, then what about myself? Umar then said, O my brother, I bear with her because of her rights over me. She cooks my food, bakes my bread, washes my clothes, breastfeeds my child, and these are not all her obligations. Moreover, she is a comfort to my heart, and she keeps me away from forbidden things like zina. Consequently, I bear with her. The man said, so is the case with my wife. Umar said to him, then be patient with her, my brother, for the life journey is too short. Isn't that beautiful? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. A righteous man used to visit another righteous Muslim brother once a year. One year he came to visit he came to pay his visit and knocked at the door. The woman of the house asked, who is it? He replied, I am a brother of your husband. I have come to visit him. She said, he has gone to fetch some wood. May Allah not bring him back, and may he break his bones. Subhanallah. May Allah, didn't we talk about not cursing? Okay, she's cursing her husband. May Allah do so and so to him. And she started reviling her husband. While the visitor was standing at the door, the man of the house returned from the mountain, and he was accompanied by a lion with a load of wood on its back, following the man as meekly as if it were a donkey. He greeted his brother in faith, asked him to enter the house, took the wood off the lion's back, and told the lion, go, may Allah bless you. Then he went into the house while his wife was still reviling him, but he did not say anything to her. The guest sat for a while, and after taking some food, departed, surprised at his friend's forbearance with such a shrew. Shrew is like a crazy woman. A year passed, and the man, as usual, came to visit his Muslim brother. He knocked at the door, and the woman of the house asked, who is it? He replied, a brother of your husband, called so-and-so. She said, welcome to you. Please come in and sit down. God willing, he is coming presently. The man was surprised by her refined manner of speaking and her warm welcome. Soon the man of the house came back carrying a load of wood on his own back, which further increased the visitor's surprise. They sat and talked pleasantly while the wife served them a delicious meal and joined them in conversation. When it was time to leave, the visitor could not restrain his curiosity and asked the host, my brother, may I ask you something? The host answered, what is it, my brother? The visitor said, last year when I came to visit you, your wife was foul-mouthed and ill-mannered, but I saw you bringing your load of firewood on the back of a lion. This year I see that your wife is polite and sweet-tempered, but you bring the firewood on your own back. I simply do not understand. The host smiled and said, my brother. He said, my brother, my first wife had died. She was, as you know, ill-tempered and abusive, but I was patient with her. As a reward for my patience and forbearance with her, Allah gave me control over the lion, and I used it as a donkey. When my first wife died, I married this good woman, and I am at peace with her. Therefore, Allah released the lion from my control, and I have to carry my own load due to the peace and comfort which I enjoy with the sweet-tempered and loving wife. This is the end of this chapter on basically woman's bad conduct towards her husband. Any questions or comments before we go?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
For me, I'm just emotional, to be honest, because I'm just emotional. I don't know for the woman own. I see that the first one, the one for the women, you know, the one to be the woman to be obedient to the husband. I see that. I mean, there's a lot of things to work on, you know, especially those four that will enter hellfire. It's very scary. And when the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went and saw the woman in hellfire, that's another scary hadith. it's kind of hard. It depends on each person and the situation, what you're going through in your marriage. But like I said, the importance is to know how to save yourself from each side that you're in. Because you can be patient, but he may not be patient, or he's patient and you are not. So it's just we pray Allah to aid us. But me, I'm kind of emotional because I see that there's a lot of work to do on all this. It's like a lesson from us again after this.
Yeah, this is definitely for us. It's for us women. It's for us women. This chapter.
For the men's, I don't see like that most, because I see when the woman is obedient, definitely. I know some people men have the character, but they will be patient. But for us, I think when we know what we're supposed to do and we are doing it the right way, it will be less. It will not be that hard like their own side. I think so. Yeah. Because they're babies, you know. But like Allah put the fitna on us to test them and to test us.
It's true. It's true. Allah aid us, but at the end of the day, sisters, it's like it's a worship, and worship sometimes is not.
They say you have to present his family members, their laws.
You have to do what?
I heard you say. I don't know if I misunderstood that.
That was like that's the advice that the sheikh was saying. He said that the wife, a good wife, should even prefer. You know, she should prefer to make her husband happy. She should be even preferring his family over, like when you say preferring his family, like doing more even for his family. If she has money, like do more for her husband, like prefer her husband and his family over her, basically. Like that's not a hadith though, but it's like his advice.
Advice, okay. I thought it was like an obligation for us to do that too. I was gonna say, yeah. What about if they don't even like you yourself?
Well, you know, like definitely, even when people don't like you, you're supposed to actually do ihsan, right? Yeah. So replace the evil with good, meaning you do what you can for them for the pleasure of Allah alone. Again, it has to be ibadah. Latifa, you wanted to say something?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, it's like I've been thinking about this, but I don't know. I was going to ask you that because all these things you teaching us, all this like, even some we might have heard before, but it's like we're being re-educated. Are we knowing the right thing now? I was thinking maybe you can, I don't know if you can do it, maybe like a counseling sort of thing, because I know some sisters that they're trying to do Islam, but they are confused. They want to be American. They want to be feminist. And I know one that is really close to my heart that is like, I wish you can cancel her that. Some of this stuff that you want to be Muslims, you don't want to be Nigerian or African, but you want to be American. And all these contradict Islam, whereby you want to control your husband, you want to rule your husband, you want to tell your husband what he has to do.
Okay, so let me correct you a little bit, Latifa. Not American, but feminist. Because among American, you have good Muslim women who obey their husbands.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to use that word feminism. Not American, but feminism. Because like they don't want to do anything African. They think being African, you're going to be submissive and all that. But when they come,
even African, you have African women in Africa who are even more feminist than like they don't even, they're sitting in Africa actually, but they're like rebelling against their husband. Just look at look at the old African plays. Like I was saying, I just hear like the woman look at her husband like good for nothing, and all of this thing. This is for people in Africa. So I mean, you have even women like in Senegal, they have this association of men being beaten by their wives. Association of beaten husbands. So I'm just saying, like it's just may Allah guide us. If we have La ilaha illallah, then we need to know better. But you know, as far as the sisters that you know you have close to you, that you know, just see if they can take that class. That class is still available online. You know, and then also this recording is, you know, like I'll share the link if you want to share it with them.
Okay. I was thinking of sharing this link with her. I don't know if she's gonna, if it's gonna
But
get through to her. But
the problem with this link compared to the class is the class goes more into explaining how marriage is a worship, whereas this is just the hadith. Like if she doesn't have the background, like she can easily say, you know, like this is too much on women. But when you teach it in a way that this is between you and Allah, and that's what the class did, right? We went over all the rights and obligations and how to really, at the end of the day, see your marriage as worship. This, I think, is easier because, like, one of the sister in class, she said the most important thing for her in that class was to realize that it's all about Allah.
Yeah.
And that makes it easier for her, like, to get her reward with Allah, right? And I think all of us is the same thing, you know, like when we think of Allah, when we think of our reward with Allah, we think of Jannah, and we see, like, you know, this woman, I don't know if you were here when the woman said, the woman who married the ugly man, well, you know, like her response was like, you know, maybe he did good to Allah and Allah rewarded him with me, or maybe I did something bad and he is my reward, I mean my punishment. But at the end of the day, she's still married, huh?
I like that part because when you say it, right? Yeah. I just took myself put in like her shoe. To be honest, I just like subhanallah, this is so beautiful. Because you see these kind of things, and even now on the beautiful side where there's some things that you know he have that are special there. That's why I always say, make dua, say, yeah Allah, if there's something good in him, let me have patience or whatever, you know, help me, aid me, you know, because everything we stay, sometimes you see this marriage, you're trying to hang on for your Jannah. If you do, you're trying to hang on for your Jannah. Other than that, when he reach another stage, you are like, it's out of the body. You just like, what is this? But when you think about, you know, you want to do this for Allah, you pray that Allah guide you and help you so you come out successful into it. And at the end of the day, you got what you wanted. That's the important thing.
Yeah. So just like the men who were being patient with their wives, right? Remember that?
Look at those two sides were so. I mean, mashallah, I really enjoyed the class today.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're making dua to Allah to do what is best for us.
Yes.
Because He knows what is best. And it doesn't also mean that you should stay in a marriage where you are being abused or you are being harmed. Islam does not condone that. It doesn't say, you know, your husband is constantly beating you, putting you down, and all. Islam does not say, oh, yeah, just be patient. You know, so we have to make the difference between the two. Yes, be patient in your marriage, choose your battles, but put everything in the hands of Allah to guide you to the best decision as far as your life, as far as your marriage. And may Allah save all our marriage and preserve it from harm and from shaitan. May Allah do what is best for us in this life and the next. May Allah be pleased with us and help us to be among the women who enter Jannah because He is pleased with us and because our spouses are pleased with us. Allahumma ameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum, sisters.